Thank you, Jason. That was a great presentation, and hopefully everybody took away something that they can apply to their real estate investment strategy. So I'm just going to review real quick. Investing in real estate's a business. Businesses require goals to profit and grow. And it takes a team of people following a plan for businesses to achieve their goals. So really quickly, I'm just going to talk to you about how I tie this all together, not only for myself as an investor and how I evaluate opportunities, but also for my clients. Over the years, I put together a framework. It's a 5-step method, and I call it the Wealth Accelerator. So step number 1 is to discover. Step number 2 is your team. Step number 3 is to source. Step number 4 is to measure. And step number 5 is to grow. So for the example I'm going to talk about briefly before breakfast is over is going to be about how I came across my first development site here in Geelong, which is 10 Mitchell Street in Belmont. I arrived in Australia on July 14, 2009. I did not have a work visa, let alone any jobs lined up. But what I did bring with me was a goal. And that goal was to continue with my real estate investing and development career path. And it took 4.5 years from when I arrived, almost within a few days, before I was under contract for 10 Mitchell Street. There was a lot to discover in those 4.5 years. I was in a new country, far away from my friends and my family and my professional network. And there was a whole new business culture and property culture that I had to learn, because Australia and the United States are considerably different when it comes to real estate. Team. My wife and I were living in Melbourne and decided that we were going to move down to Torquay in December 2013. And I knew that being in Geelong, in the Surf Coast area, that I wanted to have a local team. And my accountant in Melbourne was great at looking after our small business accounting, but wasn't up to speed on real estate tax. And I have a little bit more complicated than usual tax position. So that's what I focused on first, was my accountant. And after that was in order, and she knew my plan, it was on to a good lawyer. Because we had a partnership that I'd put together, and it was going to require shareholding agreements and joint venture agreements to work amongst the partners. And then I also had to have a conveyancer who would look at all the various Section 32s, which I didn't know how to interpret, but I did know that title work was important, very important. So I found someone that would agree to do that for all the opportunities that we were evaluating. Now, my partner in Melbourne was a real estate developer, so he could help guide me, but he also had a finance company as well as an insurance company. So that's how I built my team. Now, I'm going to just fast forward really quickly. We were subdivided and building contracts ready to go, but we had to find an estate agent. And we put some time and effort into this. My partner and I live in the Surf Coast. We met with 5 different groups, different companies in Geelong. They were all very good. They all had something a little bit different to offer. But we knew that this was important. And for me, it was about who was representing our product, right? We were building a product. We were going to have a customer. And I was looking through the sales conversation through the eyes of the customer. So we put 5 meetings, half hour each way, about 10 hours over a matter of a month into selecting that team member. So the key takeaway about building a team for your real estate investment, business, and strategy is that it takes time and it takes effort in order to get it right. And people come and go, so it's a fluid experience. Source, right? Going out and looking for that next opportunity. Our first development site that I was involved in here, that took 6 months for us to lock down, to find and actually get under contract. We evaluated a dozen different opportunities, met with counsel pretty much on every one of them, and ran numbers through our spreadsheet and build designs. So the first, I'll just talk really quickly. The first opportunity, we put a lot of time and effort in. We wanted to build student housing close to Deakin University. The way this deal worked was it was off-market, but a real estate agent had it listed and was taking highest and best offers from people that he reached out to. We were one of them. Had to be submitted our highest and best offer. Now, it turns out that we didn't get this property, but nobody did. The vendor was just testing the market and wasting everybody's time. But we learned a little bit from that and carried on. Now, the second opportunity, same thing. We were still after student housing, developing student housing to have something a little more dense. And we came across a block of land that had drawings, shovel-ready for 2 houses. But we wanted to put 4 units there. So we'd met with the city of Greater Geelong. We'd run our math, and we'd talk to the agent. We actually had a verbal agreement between the agent and the vendor and a timeline. And I had a check in my hand, well, sitting next to me. And I was driving from the Surf Coast into Geelong to sign up the paperwork. But first I had to stop by the city of Greater Geelong and go over a parking and private open space question that I needed an answer for. And what I learned during the second meeting at planning was that this property had a cultural heritage overlay. Now, just to go into that really quick, if you think that sounds like it's going to take time, energy, and money to deal with, you're right. So we walked away from that immediately. And it wasn't until a few months later that my partner drove by the sign for sale on Mitchell Street. We ran our numbers. We were getting really good at that. We made some decisions, drove into the estate agent's office, made an offer, counteroffer, signed it up, and away we go. That's how it worked for us in our first development site for our partnership. So when you're sourcing a property, the right property for you, be prepared to put time and energy into it. And you might not get every deal that you look at. And the second key takeaway from this is, as soon as the numbers don't work out that you plan for, you have to be ready to walk away. Measure. We'll talk about owning property that Jason was talking about, where you have cash flow, right? Your rent for any one property times 12, that's your gross return, okay? It's your job as an investor to know not only what the asset's worth year in and year out, because it's part of your overall wealth, and if you're gonna be ready to pounce, you need to know that, but you also have to know how that property measures up to your expectations and your plans. So you need to know what each property costs you to operate, or if you have a large portfolio, what that's worth and what the operation is. Now, sometimes everything runs real smooth. So is it meeting my expectations? That's part of the measure. If so, great. Can it be improved, or is this just how it is? If no, why? Why did I fall short of my projection for this last year? What can I do to improve that next year? That's the measure step. And as an investor, you have to always know what your assets are worth. And finally, grow. We invest in real estate to grow our asset base and our wealth, our net worth. That's the obvious with step number 5. But what I also mean by grow is you grow in experience from each deal that you do, from each property that you own, and each project you're involved in. There's experience there. Some good, some bad, and it's part of the overall growth. So the next time you take those lessons and you apply them to the future, and you grow. And it also means grow the relationship with the players on your team, because relationships take time and take energy to get right. And as I said before, people come and go, so you're gonna have to just keep at it. So that is my 5-step method that I call the Wealth Accelerator. Step 1 is to discover. Step 2 is your team. Step number 3 is to source. Step number 4 is to measure. And step number 5 is to grow. So I'd really like to thank everybody for getting up early and joining me this morning for the launch of my first book, Real Estate is a Team Sport. And I'd like to invite you to do me a favor and visit my website, which is johncarneyonline.com. And while you're there, opt into the newsletter. I'm not going to bombard you with stuff that you don't want to read, but what I am going to promise of your real estate investment business and unpack everything from the bottom up and take the 5-step method that I use and apply that to each person individually and take you from where you are today to where you might want to be in 3 years from today. And I'm offering that for $495. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can opt in by dropping a business card into the fishbowl on the table in front of you or writing your name down. So before I sign off, again, I'd like everybody to give Jason Cunningham a round of applause. Thank you, Jason, for taking the time to come down here and share your expertise with us. My name's John Carney, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur and the author of Real Estate is a Team Sport, The 9 Players You Need to Profit. I hope you enjoyed the book. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Is that still on? I think John was very modest in his call to action there. One thing I know about business, being in it for over 20 years myself, is that you're only as good as you plan. And by lifting up the bonnet and having a great look at where your assets are at is, I believe, one of the best investments that you will make. I'm going to encourage you, if you feel that you would get some benefit out of working with John, is to pop that business card in that bowl and stay in touch with John, because I know I've learned a lot working with him over the last 12 months. So that officially launches John's book. John, again, I just want to reiterate how proud I am as your mentor, but also now as one of your great friends, of the great job that you've done in putting all these people in the room and launching your book. And again, Jason, thank you for coming down and helping us out here. I'm sure you found this morning's presentation to be valuable and very cheeky and entertaining from our Jason over there. So that concludes the book launch, but I'm going to encourage you to hang around, network with people in the room, come up and talk to John and Jason and myself, and ask any questions that you might have. So again, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time, and congratulations. Let's put our hands together one more time for John.